clearly. I know my colleagues are going to say it clearly. Blizzard conditions, stay off the road, stay off the streets and sidewalks, stay inside. If there's any way you can avoid traveling today. Let me tell you why I say blizzard conditions, because at the most intense points, you're going to see 2 to 4 inches of snow per hour. That is extremely intense snow. That's blinding snow. You do not want to be out in that if there's any way you can avoid it. So please, everyone, heed this message. We're expecting somewhere between 16 inches and 22 inches of snow before this storm is over. That's what the National Weather Service is saying. And that kind of estimate can often be low. We might even see more. So this is the real thing. We expect some moderate coastal flooding. We're watching that situation carefully as well. But the bottom line here is stay off the roads. It's not just me giving you advice. It is a specific order of the city government. We are in a local state of emergency. I signed an executive order last night, and this executive order makes clear we're requiring people to stay off the roads except for essential travel. This went into effect at 6 a.m. this morning. Will go to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now look, again, we understand emergency vehicles will be out there. Health-related vehicles will be out there, ambulances, etc. Essential services, people delivering food, that kind of thing. But we do not want anything non-essential going on. We've got to take this really seriously. So, state of emergency in place. We're going to be constantly getting the message out to people what we're seeing from this storm. But I am fearful that even this tough situation we have now could even get worse. So I need people to heed the call, stay home, stay off the streets, help the sanitation department do what they need to do. Now, remember, the snow removal is the way we come back out of this storm. And our colleagues at the sanitation department, these incredible men and women who do this work, they can't clear the streets if there's cars in the way. It just doesn't work. There's a traffic jam, the whole thing falls apart. So this is why it's so important to stay off the streets. Alternate side parking will be canceled today through Saturday. So wherever your car is, you can leave it. You don't have to worry about that. A lot of disruption, obviously, in travel. A huge number of flights have been canceled. New York City Ferry, NYC Ferry, C Street Ferry have been suspended today. Staten Island Ferry reduced schedule, modified schedule. Subways and buses right now, delays. Still running. That obviously could change. As storms get worse, sometimes the state decides to alter subway and bus activity. So, that's something to keep an eye on. That could change in the course of this. Now let's talk about schools. Today, in-person learning was suspended. We have obviously all kids learning remotely. We're going to do the same tomorrow. So there will not be in-person schools tomorrow. Remote education, of course, will go on for all kids tomorrow, Tuesday. But Wednesday, we'll be back strong. So parents, so you can plan, I wanted to make sure you knew this as early as possible. No school today, no school tomorrow in person. We're back in person Wednesday, but every day, of course, we'll have remote learning. The programs that go with schools, the food programs for the community, those will be canceled when school is canceled. So they will not be up today or tomorrow. Learning Bridges, the child care program, will not be up today or tomorrow. So those are both will be canceled, but back on Wednesday. Open restaurants, the outdoor restaurants, canceled tonight. We'll see about tomorrow night. There's a chance we might be able to get them back for tomorrow night, depending on how the plowing operations go and how the weather goes. So we'll have an update on that later on today or tomorrow morning. And of course, we're watching out for everyone's safety. So Code Blue is in effect. If you see a homeless person in distress, if it's urgent distress, call 911. If it's someone who needs help, otherwise, call 311. We want to make sure we get people the help they need. Our team has been working nonstop to prepare for the storm and address its challenges, and of course, led by our Emergency Management Commissioner, and she and her team are doing a great job covering a lot of bases to keep everyone safe. Now turn to Emergency Management Commissioner Deanne Criswell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, when we woke up this morning, there was already over 6 inches of snow on the ground in some parts of the city, and that's before the heavy bands had even started to move in. So this is going to be an extremely dangerous and treacherous storm. We're starting to see the heavier bands of snow now, and that's going to last until early evening And as the mayor stated, we are expecting a total accumulation of 16 to 22 inches, but again, that could still go up. I'm saying it's a minimum of 16 to 22 inches, so please be prepared. We're also starting to see an increase in the winds right now, especially along the coastal areas. We still expect sustained winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts as much as 40 to 50 miles per hour at times. And while the National Weather Service has not issued an official blizzard warning, as the mayor stated, we are going to see blizzard-like conditions intermittently throughout the day today. And so I am really encouraging everyone, please exercise extreme caution even as you're out walking outside today for the things that you need to do. Please exercise extreme caution. The conditions are going to be very hazardous. Because of these conditions, there are travel restrictions in place, and we did issue a wireless emergency alert this morning at 8 a.m. to remind all New Yorkers to please stay off the roads. As the mayor also mentioned, we are expecting to see some moderate flooding during tonight's high tide, and the National Weather Service has issued a coastal flood warning beginning at 8 p.m. this evening through 5 a.m. tomorrow. The areas around Jamaica Bay, to include Howard Beach, Hamilton Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaways, could see 2 to 3 feet of inundation. This will be the most flooding we've seen from a winter storm since October of 2018, but it's close to what we see in a normal high tide event other parts of the year. And elsewhere across the city, the National Weather Service has issued some coastal flood advisories for vulnerable shorelines that are seen in the Bronx, northern Queens, southern Manhattan, parts of Brooklyn, and Staten Island. Some of the impacts that we've seen so far, as the mayor had mentioned, many flights have been canceled already today at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. The New York City Ferry and C Street Ferry have been suspended for today, and Staten Island Ferry is running on a modified schedule. Subway and bus service is running, but I strongly encourage you to check schedules for any delays. They are starting to experience delays, and we'll see that probably increase throughout the day today, so please check the schedules. And other rail operations from LIRR, Metro North, and New Jersey Transit also are either suspending some services or modifying services, so please check schedules before you go out today. We've seen minimal power outages right now and heat outages at this time, but Con Edison has brought in extra crews, so they are prepared to respond throughout this event today. And our Emergency Operations Center is activated, will remain active throughout the evening, through tomorrow, and longer if needed, to help coordinate the city's response. To close, I'd just like to thank everyone for staying off the roads today and also for taking care of your neighbors, looking out for your neighbors and loved ones as we go through this event today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Deanne. And as we speak, the extraordinary men and women of the New York City Sanitation Department are out there clearing our streets, protecting us. We call them New York City's strongest for a reason. And we really need to support their work. I want people to say thank you. Whenever you see a sanitation worker today, say thank you to them. But even more, what they want from you is clear the way so they can do what they do best. Here to give you an update on this intense mobilization to clear our streets, our Sanitation Commissioner, Ed Grayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor said, as my colleague, Commissioner Criswell said, we are just at the start of this event. During the overnight, we were out there plowing all night long with the full complement of over 700 spreaders and 2,000 plowed vehicles. And we fought about a 6-inch snowstorm before daybreak. And now we have even more coming. The total snowfall amounts are great, as my colleagues have stated, and we are encouraging everyone to please stay off the road. This will be the only way for us to, fully complete our mission. And our mission today is to try to keep all roadways passable for all New Yorkers. Now, I want to make one thing very clear. A passable roadway is not blacktop. In a storm like this, it'll be quite some time before everyone can see blacktop on their street. But make no mistake, we are out there. We are going to come on a slow, methodical approach to hit every street in the city multiple times. I cannot stress that enough. It will take multiple passes during this prolonged period of active snowfall. So we please ask everyone to heed the guidance and stay off the road. As the mayor said, ASP has been canceled today and for the rest of the week. We're going to need that. I would ask all residents, once we get out of the active snowfall, to think about that while they're out there shoveling. I want them to take extra time and be very safe and cautious while they're out shoveling, while they're out treating their own properties and looking out for their neighbors, as my colleague said. But more importantly, this is a heavy snowfall. Let's make sure that you're being healthy, taking breaks, etc. There's a lot of snow to move. We're going to move it off the roads. Be very careful when you're moving it away from your properties. Speaking of moving the snow after, hopefully, the cessation of snowfall, for tomorrow, New York City will be employing the emergency snow laborers that are pre-registered. So that's 8 a.m. tomorrow. Please, if you've pre-registered, over 1,000 people have registered to be an emergency snow laborer. Please know that you're activated as of tomorrow, and you can contact your work location, and we'll be making some contact to those who pre-registered. For anyone who's looking to register to be an emergency snow laborer, you can do that at nyc.gov/snow, and you'll find out exactly how to do that with DSNY. Since the same men and women that are out there plowing and salting today, fighting this storm for New York City, are the same men and women who pick up your garbage and recycling, know now that we've suspended collection operations for today. More than likely, we will have service delays that linger. So definitely, if you can hold it in, please do that. But if you cannot, because of space, put it out and know that we will be coming, but we will have service delays on refuse and recycling. And as soon as we have a better handle on just how much snowfall is out there and just how long it's going to take to fight it, then we'll get back on refuse and recycling as soon as possible. So outdoor dining, as the mayor said, is suspended today, and we're hoping to have it back as soon as possible tomorrow. It's a tough storm. We just need time to do our jobs. Again, the message is to encourage everyone, if you can, to stay off the road and let us get out there. And we're looking to keep everybody safe. And as the mayor said, the men and women of the Department of Sanitation, they are heroes. And they're out there right now fighting to keep this city passable and keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Look, everyone, we're hoping, we see the main body of the storm end by early evening. And that's going to give us time and give sanitation time to get out there and clear things. But again, we have been thrown curveballs before by Mother Nature. So this storm, it ain't over till it's over. We're going to stay on it to make sure people are safe. So we're going to keep giving you updates on the storm, but now let me give you an update on the thing that we are focused on every day, which is getting people vaccinated, protecting people from the coronavirus. And obviously, the first thing to say is that the storm is disrupting our vaccination effort, and we need to keep people safe. We don't want folks, especially seniors, going out in unsafe conditions to get vaccinated. We know we can reschedule appointments very quickly because, of course, we have supply. We're going to use the supply we have. Our problem is lack of supply. So we can take the supply we have and distribute it very quickly in the days to come and make sure everyone gets the appointments. But it's not safe out there today. So vaccinations are canceled today. They're also going to be canceled tomorrow. Based on what we are seeing right now, we believe that tomorrow getting around the city will be difficult. It'll be icy, it'll be treacherous. We do not want seniors, especially out in those conditions. So we're going to have vaccinations off for today and tomorrow, come back strong on Wednesday. We'll be able to catch up quickly because, again, we have a vast amount of capacity. We don't have enough vaccine, so we'll simply use the days later in the week, crank up those schedules, get people rescheduled into those days. Okay, now let's talk about the vaccine effort overall. We end up finishing January very strong. Here's our final number for the vaccination effort from the beginning. When we started till the last day of January, 815,193 vaccinations given in New York City. Again, our goal had been 1 million. We would easily have made that goal if we had the supply. That number, 815,000, more than the total population of Seattle, Washington, to give you perspective. But the bottom line is we don't have the supply we need. This situation gets less and less acceptable by the day. We have the capacity to vaccinate 500,000 New Yorkers a week, and we're nowhere near that right now because we don't have supply. We got to do something different. So let me talk about the approach that I think we need to move towards immediately. And this fits with the vision I've been talking about these last few days since the State of the City on Thursday. I'm going to keep talking about how we build a recovery for all of us. A recovery for all of us requires everyone to get vaccinated. A recovery for all of us means we speed the vaccination effort. By speeding the vaccination effort, we're protecting people and speeding up the reopening of our economy and our full recovery. We need the supply to do that. What's wrong with this picture? Well, the pharmaceutical industry, the biotech industry, all the pieces of the scientific community that could all be working together in a single project to manufacture the vaccines we already have. That's just not happening. I mean, think about it for a moment. There's 2 companies right now producing vaccine. 2. And all the other companies in America that have the ability to produce vaccine are not in the game. These companies need to step forward, offer their help to create and produce the Moderna vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. There is no reason that we're living by traditional lines of corporate self-protection. There's no reason that profit is dominating this discussion instead of the needs of people. There's no reason that people are more concerned about patents than saving lives. I mean, whatever way you say, there's a reason for the status quo. When you think about it for a moment, it does not make any sense. We need the federal government to step in and require these companies to all work in the common interest of the American people and immediately use their manufacturing capacity, their assembly lines to produce vaccine. You have some people out there saying, oh, you know, people aren't going to get vaccinated till the end of the year. That's totally unacceptable. The federal government needs to step forward, aggressively use the Defense Production Act, but the companies themselves could be stepping forward and saying, we'll immediately volunteer to do this. Let me give you a little example from history. In World War II, and this one points out how ridiculous the current situation is. In World War II, the entire war effort animated this country to stop Nazism, stop fascism, save lives. Companies understood they had to step up. They had to do whatever it took. Aircraft engines were made by the company Pratt & Whitney. Ford Motor Company didn't make aircraft engines at all. But they stepped forward and said, we'll take Pratt & Whitney's design and we'll create aircraft engines. Doesn't matter if it's something we've done before. We'll figure out how to do it for the war effort. I'm saying the companies that right now they already know how to make vaccines. They already do pharmaceuticals. They already do life sciences. We need those. We've identified 27 companies nationally that could all be part of this effort. We need Pfizer and Moderna to connect to those companies, share their plans, and everyone to produce with a common goal, and we need our federal government to lead the way. When we get the vaccine, we here in New York City, like so many other parts of the country, we have the infrastructure, we have the people ready to go. We can give the vaccine with extraordinary speed. But it all comes down to supply, supply, supply. And the status quo, when it comes to supply right now, the status quo in this country is broken. We need to do something different, and we need to do something different right away. Okay, everyone. As we complete today's presentation, I'll go to our indicators in a moment, but let's take a moment to recognize it's a very special day. It is February 1st, so it's the beginning of Black History Month. And this is a month for everyone to really think deeply about the history of this country. And not just the contributions of the most famous African Americans in our history, but the contributions of everyday people. The fact that there is no America as we know it without the African American community. The fact that we've got to come to grips with our history so suffused by racism and overcome it. I, in my State of the City on Thursday, announced that we're going to have a commission on racial justice and reconciliation that's going to look at structural racism in New York City, identify where it exists in every facet of our society, and develop the solutions. Looking back on history is a chance to think about what we can learn and do better. So this is a powerful time of transformation. The Black Lives Matter movement has educated people, opened eyes. Folks all over the country are looking for change. They're looking to do something differently and leave behind the broken reality of the past. Obviously, an amazing year because for the first time in our history, a woman of color as our Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. So this is going to be a year of tremendous progress locally and nationally. So let's celebrate Black History Month. Let's remember, but let's be inspired to do a lot more right now. All right, let me go to the indicators for the day. Number one, daily number of people admitted to New York City hospitals for suspected COVID-19. That number is 180 patients. The confirmed positivity level, 65.79%. And then the hospitalization rate, 5.17 per 100,000. The new cases on a 7-day average, 4,509. And percentage of people testing positive citywide for COVID-19. Today's 7-day rolling average percentage, 8.26%. me do a few words in Spanish on the storm and everything we're facing with it. Una de las tormentas de nieve más grande de los últimos años está aquí y estamos en estado de emergencia. Los viajes no esenciales están prohibidos y solo se puede transitar en casos de emergencia o si es realmente necesario. Todas nuestras agencias están trabajando fuerte para mantener nuestra ciudad segura y a todos los neoyorquinos a salvo. With that, let's turn to our colleagues in the media. Please let me know the name and outlet of each journalist.
We'll now begin our Q&A. As a reminder, we're joined today by Dr. Choksi, by New York City Emergency Management Commissioner Deanne Criswell, by Sanitation Commissioner Ed Grayson, and by Senior Advisor Dr. Jay Varma. First question today goes to Andrew Siff from NBC.
Andrew Siff, are you there? I really don't feel like he's there. Can you hear us?
We might not have Andrew. Let's try Andrew a little bit later. We'll go to Juan Manuel from New York One.
Juan Manuel. Okay. We are having technical difficulties. Okay. Who is out there?
Can you hear me now, Mr. Mayor?
Juan Manuel, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, how are you?
Very good. Can you hear me now? Very
Sí,
good,
¿cómo
thank you.
estás?
Muy bien, gracias. Mr. Mayor, about half an hour ago, Governor Cuomo, while driving into the city, told Juliet Papa of 1010 Winds that service for above-ground subway lines could be canceled by noon today. Do you have any details on subway service today in the city?
I'm waiting for a full update, but that's certainly consistent with what we've seen in the past, Juan Manuel. When the snow gets too intense, those overland subway lines, those elevated subway lines really meet tremendous problems. And the last thing we want to do is see all the trains stranded up there. So a lot of times the MTA has decided just to focus on the underground service when the snow gets too intense, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Go ahead.
And Mr. Mayor, you've been asking the federal government to push all these pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies to produce a vaccine. And you're telling the media, and you're telling television viewers, but have you had any direct conversation with President Biden or any high official in his administration, and have you demanded that they take this step?
Yes, with key members of his administration, and looking forward to deepening those conversations. This one to me is urgent, Juan Manuel. I understand, especially for a new administration that's trying to deal with every problem simultaneously, that they have so much they're trying to deal with. They're trying to get the immediate supply moving under the current conditions. And I really respect their efforts. I think we have to acknowledge, however, that the status quo won't be able to work well enough under current conditions. It just can't. It's not President Biden's fault. It's what he was handed. We've got to break the mold here. We've got to do something very, very different. So I'm certainly making this argument to federal colleagues. And, you know, I believe they're looking at this question, but I'll let them, of course, speak for themselves.
Next, we're going to go back to Andrew Siff from NBC.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
There you go. You sound great, Andrew.
I'm glad that whatever technical glitches were happening have been rectified. My question has to do with the vaccine postponements today and tomorrow. How exactly does that work? Do the same sites where people were supposed to get their vaccine squeeze them in within a day or two? Does it move back a week? You know there's anxiety out there, particularly people who've been waiting for weeks for their appointment only to have it canceled for today or tomorrow.
Of course there's anxiety. And look, anyone who was looking forward to getting vaccinated today or tomorrow, I really feel how, frustrating it must be for all of you that this gotten delayed. But everyone has eyes to see. We're in the middle of a blizzard. It's not safe for people to be out in a blizzard. It's particularly not safe for seniors. We don't want someone, going to try and get a vaccine to protect their health and then end up, God forbid, in a horrible situation because of the snow. So we're going to turn quickly to reschedule those appointments. Dr. Choksi, you want to talk about how that's going to go?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Andrew, for the question. Yes, the way that this works is that wherever someone had their appointment, whether it was at a city site or another site, a hospital or a neighborhood clinic, they should get in touch with that place if they haven't already heard about their appointment getting rescheduled. In terms of the time frame, it will vary a bit depending on the specific site. I do know that many sites still do have the ability to shift those appointments into later in the week, so it will only be a postponement of a few days. And at the minority of sites, they may have to postpone it into next week. But the bottom line is many people have already been contacted about that rescheduling. And if someone has a question about their appointment for today or tomorrow, they should feel free to call the site where they have that appointment.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Second question, if your sanitation commissioner is still on the call.
Yeah.
With regard to preaching patience to people who wonder when they'll see a plow, the challenge with this storm is that you still have many more hours, maybe 12 hours more, maybe even more than that of snow. So in a borough like Queens, with a lot of windy little streets where you have your strategy with holsters and small mini plows, what is your message to Queens residents as an example about when they should expect to see their street cleared, at least with a first pass?
Great question. They've already had a pass in Queens, guaranteed. We've been plowing since yesterday. So the one thing for our residents in Queens and just citywide to remember is that this is definitely an event where it will take multiple passes. And with the rate of snowfall, as the mayor was saying before, as high as, in some cases, at the height of it, could be 2 inches an hour, we could have made a pass, and in under an hour, in the time it takes you to heat something up and have something to eat, there could be 2 inches of ground when you look out your window. So just be patient with us. We're coming. And being a former Queens resident for a very long time, I know the challenges in Queens, and the men and women out there are very dedicated, and we're committed to do the right thing.
The next is Marcia from WCBS.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for taking this call. I have two questions. The first has to do with the people who are food insecure. I know you said that the grab-and-go meals at schools would not be continued, but I'm wondering whether the city is going to be making the food deliveries to homebound seniors and others who depend on those deliveries, or will these people have to use the food delivery services or just go without?
No, Marcia, we're not going to let anyone go without food. Absolutely, we're going to make sure those deliveries get to people come hell or high water. This is something I've said from the beginning of the pandemic. We will not let any New Yorker go hungry. So for folks who need those home deliveries, folks who are homebound, don't have a choice, call 311. We're going to get you a delivery right away. The school program, that's going to be back up on Wednesday for sure. And we can give people multiple days of food if they need going forward. But the home deliveries, we're going to make sure that happens for sure. Go ahead, Marcia.
My next question has to do with your vaccine equity program. I know that you released numbers yesterday. I guess the question we have is, when will we see true vaccine equity? What's your program going forward?
Marcia, we got a lot of work to do because it's a combination of we need a hell of a lot more supply and we need to work on the real concerns about trust and hesitancy. This is going to take work. If we get a bigger supply, I think that's the single biggest difference maker, because what that means is in communities all over the city, people start to know more and more people in their life who have gotten vaccinated. That's going to be the biggest impact. That word of mouth, the spread of the news, word of mouth, is what's going to convince people to get vaccinated. My neighbor got vaccinated, they said it was okay. My aunt got vaccinated, she said it was okay. You know, someone I worship in church with got vaccinated, they said it was okay. That's what we need. We can't do that without a hell of a lot more supply. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is work to ensure that the supply is getting to the grassroots, getting to the sites that people really know in their community, continue to do a lot of communication with people in lots of different languages. We're gonna keep working at it, and I know we'll get there. But you know what? We'll always have one hand behind our back, tied behind our back, if we don't get the supply. That's the bottom line.
The next is Henry from Bloomberg.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing? Hanging in there?
It's a winter wonderland, Henry. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know you're going to be very disappointed about probably canceling Groundhog Day tomorrow. You're probably
Wow.
not going to be able to make that.
I am crushed, Henry. I am like, I have to take it off my schedule. I'm very upset about it.
All right. I also have to commend the sanitation department. They've plowed my son's street in Long Island City, Queens twice already.
There you go.
So
There you go. Congratulations, Ed. All right, what do you got?
On the demography of the vaccinations, if I'm not mistaken, you said that there was about a 40% rate of people not volunteering their ethnic or demographic identification. In light of that, how confident can you be in the data that you presented yesterday?
Look, 2 points, Henry, and then I'll ask Dr. Choksi to weigh in. I feel like when you've got as many people as we do have the data for, that's a lot of people. That's a really big sample size. So I think it tells us a lot, and it certainly tells us there's a real disparity problem we have to address. But we got to get other people to provide that data more consistently. And I don't think it's so much just the individual not offering it. I think the providers need to do more to let people know how important it is to provide that information. So Dr. Choksi, why don't you talk about the HAN and remind me what the acronym stands for again, and the alert you put out and what it tells providers to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And first, I just wanted to reiterate the most important point, which is the one that you made, which is that we have enough data to tell us that we need to be redoubling our efforts around addressing equity and particularly racial equity. So we have the information that we need to take action today. We don't need to wait any longer to commit and recommit ourselves to that urgent imperative. And with that said, yes, there are some limitations to the data, particularly the percentage of people who are either declining to provide their race or ethnicity, or for whom a provider isn't capturing that so that we can see it in the system. For the second part of that, we are putting out a HAN, which is a health alert notice. This is the way that we communicate with clinicians around New York City, making very explicit what our obligations are with respect to reporting on race and ethnicity as part of our immunization efforts. We're also going to be working with those same clinicians about how to have those conversations with patients so that we capture more of that data as well. We do know from other states and cities around the country that are starting to collect this data. In most other places, it's upward of 50% of the data points that are unknown race or ethnicity. In New York City, it's 40%, but we have to get that number even lower so that we can have the best picture of what's happening.
Thank you. Go ahead, Henry.
Okay, thanks. On the restaurants reopening, I know this is a state decision, but is there...
You're saying the indoor, just Henry, to clarify, not the outdoor dining and whether it's on or off. You're saying indoor dining?
I'm sorry, indoor dining. Did I say outdoor dining? Indoor dining. Is there anything that the Board of Health, I mean, if you have a true disagreement with the governor on this, the City Board of Health has enormous plenary powers in the city. Do you just want to avoid a conflict with the state over this issue, or is your power really limited by the state's, control over this issue?
Yeah, look, Henry, at this point, because of the actions of the legislature, this is a decision the state makes. Obviously, we have to start having a conversation in New York State about when we're going to revert back to normal governance and let cities and towns and counties make decisions for themselves. But right now, this is the decision the state makes. We're going to be watching very carefully. We're really concerned about the variant, the new variants, I should say, plural, and what that could mean. And we're going to enforce the standards with a lot of energy because really important that with indoor dining coming back, it be done safely and carefully. And Department of Health will lead the way. So our focus will be on the piece that we do control, which is the enforcement, getting that right. And we're certainly going to be really watching carefully as we watch to see what's happening with the virus in general, because there's a lot of unknowns still out there. And we'll talk about what we're seeing and we'll act on it accordingly.
The next is Shant from the Daily News.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is staying warm. Had another vaccination question. Can you say what the city had been expecting in terms of its next shipment of doses for the week? And is this storm going to delay that?
I'll turn to Dr. Choksi on the numbers. Ashant, clearly, I can say from the beginning, the numbers are extremely insufficient. We got a little bit of a boost from the announcement from President Biden, which we really appreciate, but they're still way off what we need. So far, with the storm situation, we're going to be concerned about any disruption, but that should be very temporary disruption. And again, because we have so little supply, we will be catching up quickly. We have much more capacity than we have supply for. So even if there's a little delay, it won't be long because we'll just fill in all the spaces we could be using. Dr. Choksi, you want to talk about specific numbers and if you have any specific reports on delays?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We do not have any specific reports on delays as yet. We are actively monitoring that. We're in communication with both the federal government as well as the manufacturers and the shipping companies to be alerted of any delays if they do occur over today and tomorrow. But thus far, our conversations indicate that they're planning to proceed with deliveries as they have been scheduled. With respect to the numbers, we're expecting about 150,000 first doses to be delivered across all New York City sites for this week. Most of those deliveries will occur today, tomorrow, and Wednesday.
Go ahead, Shant.
Yeah, thanks for that. Other than that, I wanted to ask about a New York Times report about a number of high-level state health department officials resigning, apparently amid a major rift with the governor. I guess for one thing, you've had any number of clashes with the governor during the course of the pandemic. Can you sympathize with those state health officials who have resigned? And also, with this level of dysfunction with the state health department, is that going to affect the handling of the pandemic in the city?
Well, I'm concerned, obviously, about that. Look, here's the bottom line, Shant. Every leader in America should be listening to their health officials. Doesn't matter if you're a governor, a mayor, or president of the United States. Every leader in America should be constantly consulting their health officials, weighing their analysis and their suggestions. The worst example we had during this pandemic, the what not to do example, is Donald Trump ignoring Dr. Fauci and ignoring all of the other key medical leaders and health leaders, literally not talking to them or criticizing them publicly. That led to some of the worst mistakes and lives were lost. So you have to encourage your health leaders to offer their views. I talk to my health leadership every day. We talk through a variety of issues every day. That's the way to do things if you're going to save lives. Go ahead.
The next is Rich Lamb from WCBS 880.
Well then, hi there during the storm, Mr. Mayor and everybody on the call. So I wonder whether Commissioner Grayson can give us any from behind the wheel experience from driving a plow and say what a storm like this really takes it out of you, doesn't it? I mean, it's ongoing and you got another 12 hours of this. Can the people handle it?
Yes, this is the time when the men and women of the department truly show their professionalism. We train for this, but I can tell you from personal experience, it's treacherous driving. You have to go very slowly. You have to be very mindful because of the plow sitting on the front of the truck. Look, New York City is a tough place to drive a garbage truck any day. You had some snow, you had some poor visibility, And it's now time for us to go very slowly, very controlled rate of speed, get our jobs done, go through meticulously, and they'll be okay. But they've trained for this, and they're very dedicated.
Amen. And again, Rich, I've seen the heroic work of the men and women of sanitation. I've been there in the garages when folks are, going out again after 12 hours and going out for more. It's unbelievable, the commitment that they have. So again, I'm going to keep saying that if people respect that and appreciate that, get out of their way. Get your cars parked and get out of the way and let them do what they do best. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, just to follow up, I'm just wondering, how many swipes do you think an average street, if there is an average street, or at least the main streets, will be getting in this storm? It seems like it's, I know multiple was the word that was used, but, what is it, 20 or, I don't know, any idea?
This will be hard to say only because of we have no idea yet at the cessation of snowfall. We're going to continue to go until we get it blacktop. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to keep coming back because we also are expecting cold temperatures for at least some duration of period after cessation of snowfall. So then we'll go through the ebbs and flows, as all New York City residents know, of the melting and refreeze. We come back and retreat again. So I can't give you more than multiple passes because I just don't know how many yet.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We have time for two more for today. The next is Kristen from the Staten Island Advance.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good, Kristen. How you doing?
Good, hanging in there.
What are you seeing? Are you on Staten Island right now?
I am, and I'm seeing a lot of cold white stuff.
Okay. Thank you for that very specific report.
I do my best. But I wanted to talk to you about, weather contingency plans. I mean, excluding days like today when there's just absolutely no way that people can get over to vaccination sites. What, if any, plan does the city have for sites, specifically like the Gotham Vanderbilt Clinic, where people are, being vaccinated outside in a tent, on days like Friday when it was just frigid? Is there any plan?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, is there any plan to, on days like that to bring people indoors?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And obviously, Kristen, first and foremost, I'm going to keep reminding us in the spirit of hope that spring is around the corner. So this kind of weather we're only dealing with for hopefully a few more weeks. But it's a really good question. And this is made tougher by the fact that we need to distance people. We would probably in the past, in a lot of situations, had a much easier time bringing people indoors, but we don't want to crowd a lot of people, especially indoors. So it's a tough situation. I do think we have to keep trying to figure out how to make people as comfortable as possible and move lines as quickly as possible. Dr. Choksi, I know that site is a health and hospital site, but could you speak about the bigger philosophy that you're using, and Dr. Katz and all your colleagues, to keep lines moving, to keep people as warm as you can, bring them in when you can? What can you tell us?
Yes, certainly. And I can tell you actually more specifically about my experience in Staten Island on Saturday. I was at one of our health department sites there with the vaccination effort. And just as you pointed out in your question, it was a very cold day. It was 16 degrees outside. And so we made every effort first to keep the line as short as possible. Our wait times were less than 5 minutes, for people who were queuing up. And we moved the line entirely indoors. That is a site is at Port Richmond High School, where we had sufficient space to be able to create the line and move it indoors so that people could be more comfortable. So in every opportunity where we have to do that, of course, we will make it happen. In circumstances where lines get a little bit longer, we will then prioritize, our older New Yorkers, people who have limited mobility, rushing them to the front of the line, making sure they have a place to sit if they do have to wait for a few more minutes. So all of those plans are in place. We're also making sure that the flow through the sites is maximized because that's what helps us keep the lines short in the first place. and doing things to ensure that we have indoor staging areas that allow us to continue with that distancing. We can follow up with some more specifics about the Vanderbilt site, but that's our general approach.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kristen.
Great. And, I just do want to add that we have heard that the lines overall have been shorter. I haven't really been hearing about the 2-3 hour waits. So, that is good. But 15 minutes and 16 degrees is still pretty cold. But now just a little bit more specific about the actual types of vaccines. The city health department told me the other day that all of the city vaccination hubs have the ability to store and distribute both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. But all of the sites on the vaccine tracker show that the Moderna vaccine is specifically the one that is being administered. What city sites are using the Pfizer vaccine, and why isn't it being used more widely?
Dr. Choksi.
Thank you for the question. So I would clarify it's for all city sites. When we use that bigger set of sites, that includes health and hospitals as well as the health department sites, that includes both Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Generally, it's at health and hospital sites where, because there's a close affiliation with the hospital, that they're more readily able to use the Pfizer vaccine, which requires that ultra cold storage. For the health department sites, we're using primarily Moderna vaccine at this point. And if other vaccines get approved in the future, like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we would be able to administer that through health department sites as well. So for your question, I would say we are using both vaccines at city sites, but generally it's split in that way to be able to ensure that the vaccine is safely stored and administered.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Last question today goes to Nolan from The Post.
Hey everybody, how are you doing?
Good, Nolan. You enjoying the winter wonderland?
I am. There are near whiteout conditions here in Crown Heights. I can't see across the street anymore, so that's exciting for me and the people tasked with clearing the walk to my building, which is thankfully not me. I just, if we could just go back and talk a little bit about the vaccine real fast. I'm curious, because we've gotten sort of two sets of breakdowns here. We really don't have any base demographic information to compare it against. Does the city have an idea as to what the demographic makeup of the city is above 65? And does it have an idea as to what the demographic breakdown is for the first responders and the hospital workers who qualify under 1A and 8?
Yeah. And what we're going to do, good questions, Nolan. We're going to keep providing more information in more breakouts and more pieces of the population. As I said, I also want to start getting things down to the zip code level and to the vaccination site level. So it all takes time to get it right, and we also would like more of the providers to give us accurate information. But the more we can break it out, the better. But your first point is a really important one. There is a demographic difference by age, I can tell you this much. So the city as a whole, again, this is broad data, and obviously things evolve even month to month. But here's the basics. The city as a whole, 32% white, 29% Hispanic, 24% black, 14% Asian. You saw the difference in the vaccination data compared to that baseline data. But to your point about age, there is some difference in age. When you do the category 18 to 64 years old and then separate category 65 years and up, 18 to 64 in this city is 31% white, 28, almost 29% Latino, 21% black, 15% Asian. When you do 65 and up, it's actually meaningfully different. 65 and up is 41% white, 22% Latino, 21% black, 14% Asian. So you do see some meaningful differences there for sure. But what we're going to do is keep trying to get more and better data, keep putting it out, going down to a more local level. We'll get the data out, obviously, on the folks who serve us, first responders, teachers, healthcare workers. That data set is a different reality than the general population, though. I want to be very clear about that. And that's a group of folks in specific professions. Does not set up the same as the population overall for a variety of reasons, but we'll get you information on that for sure. Go ahead, Nolan.
And secondly, just to follow up on the questions about vaccines and who is getting the vaccines, there are more Anglo people who live outside of New York City who have gotten a vaccine here in the city than people who are Black and live in the 5 boroughs. Is there something preventing the city from imposing residency restrictions on suburban New Yorkers coming into the city to get their shots on the private health systems?
It's a good question for sure. Yeah, there is, and I want to talk about that for a moment because it's important. But first, let me say this. What we talked about yesterday, and I spoke with Dr. Choksi and all of our colleagues in detail about this in the last few days as we got ready for yesterday's announcement. We still, based on the information we have, which we need to perfect that information, but based on what we have, vast majority of the folks who got vaccinated and who live outside the 5 boroughs are people who serve New York City. They are healthcare workers, teachers, school staff, police officers, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters. We want all those people vaccinated. If that demographic reality looked different than New York City, we understand why, but most importantly, we wanted those people vaccinated. They serve all of us, they protect all of us, we need them vaccinated. But there's a different question, which I think you're getting at, which is folks who, just individuals who are 65 and older and are looking to get vaccinated, who come from outside the city and go to our hospitals, for example, and get a vaccination. This is where we need to work with the state on a solution. I want to see everyone vaccinated. In New York City, in the tri-state area, we want everyone vaccinated, and we care for everyone. Obviously, every single human being who's feeling vulnerable right now, every senior in particular, we need them to get vaccinated. We want them to get vaccinated. Their families are anxious for them. We want everyone to get served. But we know that vaccine has been distributed not just to the suburbs in New York State, but to Connecticut, to New Jersey. Obviously, each of our suburban areas has gotten their own allotment, and we really want to make sure that people who live in the suburbs to the maximum extent possible, live in other states to the maximum extent possible, get their vaccines where they live. So we can protect what we need to do for people here, particularly the most vulnerable people in the neighborhoods we were talking about yesterday, who are in the places where the most people have died proportionally. I'm going to be just blunt about that, but the most danger exists. So that's something we can only do with the state. But as we look at that situation, we've got to think through the ramifications. And, right now, the best information I have, Nolan, is, for example, about 29,000 of the doses were given to folks who live in New Jersey and Connecticut. Now, again, some of those folks are public servants who serve us as absolutely a fair and smart priority. But some of those, I'm sure, are just individuals who came in because they had an opportunity to get a dose. We respect them, we care for them, but we want to see folks get their doses where they live to the maximum extent possible for the good of all of us. Okay, everybody, as we conclude today, look, we got a lot we're facing, but we're going to get through it. We always do. We're going to get through it together. New Yorkers are going to stand up for each other, protect each other. Look out today, please. Look out for your neighbors. Look out for people in your family who might need a little help. Please, folks who are trying to shovel snow, it's going to be incessant. You heard Commissioner Grayson. This is going to be at some points. He is a great example. Between the time you go to make a sandwich and eat the sandwich and look outside again, the snow will already have piled up. So please be careful snow shoveling. If you're someone with any kind of health reality that's a challenge, or if you're older, take it slow. See if someone else can help you. We want people to be safe today, and I can safely say tomorrow is going to be a better day. Thank you, everybody.